Imagine a young woman, full of life and talent, being brutally murdered in her own home. The killer left no trace, no motive, and no apparent reason for the heinous act. This was the tragic fate of Egypt Covington. Egypt Covington was born on July 19, 1989 in Belleville, Michigan, a small town about 30 miles southwest of Detroit. She was the youngest of 4 children, and her parents were both musicians who had played in local bands. Egypt inherited their musical talents and had a passion for singing and playing the guitar.
I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up.
In addition to her love for music, Egypt Covington was known for her outgoing and friendly personality. She had a wide circle of friends and was loved by many in the local community.
Egypt was beautiful. When she'd walk in a room, everybody noticed her.
She attended Belleville High School, where she was a popular and talented student. Her friends and family described her as kind, generous, and hardworking. She worked several jobs to support herself, including as a bartender at a local bar and as a sales representative for a construction company. But music was still her passion, and she continued to perform at local venues whenever she had the chance. Despite her busy schedule, Egypt always made time for her music. She had dreams of one day making it big in the music industry. In 2014, Egypt auditioned for the television show The Voice and made it through the initial round of auditions. Although she didn't make it onto the show, the experience gave her a taste of what it would be like to pursue a career in music. Egypt's dream was to become a successful singer-songwriter, and she was well on her way to achieving that dream.
Today marks 1 week since Egypt Covington was found dead inside her home.
Medical examiners say she was killed from a single gunshot wound to the head.
On the night of June 23, 2017, Egypt Covington was at home in her townhouse in Van Buren Township. Egypt had been bound with Christmas lights, and her wrists and ankles were tied together. She had also been beaten, strangled, and shot in the head. Her body was discovered by her boyfriend, who called 911 immediately.
911.
I just showed up at my girlfriend's house, and I walked inside. She's there, tied up. She's dead.
And what's her name?
Egypt Covington. Jacqueline Egypt Covington.
The duct tape used to bind her hands and mouth was found to have male DNA on it, leading investigators to believe that the killer was likely a man. Police believe that Egypt was targeted specifically and that her murder was not a random act of violence. They found no signs of forced entry, and nothing had been taken from the home. The investigation quickly turned to Egypt's personal life and her relationships with others.
Covington was shot to death in her home in Van Buren Township. A bullet wound in her head, just behind her ear, and her wrists bound with Christmas lights. Her dog, Ruby, was alive and unharmed, but visibly upset.
It was also determined that Egypt had been killed in the early morning hours, as her cell phone activity stopped at around 1:30 a.m. that day. The murder weapon was never found, and there were no apparent motives or suspects in the case for years. After Egypt Covington's body was discovered in her home, the Van Buren Township Police Department launched a thorough investigation into her murder. Crime scene technicians collected DNA samples, fingerprints, and other forensic evidence from the crime scene in an effort to identify the killer. Investigators also conducted interviews with Egypt's friends, family, and acquaintances, hoping to find someone who has seen or heard something that could help solve the case. However, despite their best efforts, the investigation stalled for years due to a lack of strong leads or suspects.
She was a singer,
She was a marketing representative. She was an aunt. She was a puppy mom. She was a light.
In November 2020, 3 years after Egypt's murder, a suspect was finally arrested. The suspect, a 34-year-old man named Timothy Eugene Moore, was charged with first-degree murder, felony murder, home invasion, and conspiracy to commit home invasion. It was alleged that Moore and 2 other men broke into Egypt's home with the intention of robbing her, and that Moore shot and killed her.
Forward to November of 2020, police arrest 34-year-old Timothy Moore in Ohio, charging him with homicide for Covington's death. Moore was arraigned in Toledo and denied bond.
In January 2021, 2 more men have been arrested and charged with felony murder in Egypt's case. 31-year-old Shane Evans and 28-year-old Shannon Groom are facing both felony murder charges and first-degree home invasion charges. Timothy Moore remains in custody on the charges as well. A motive for the killing has still not been revealed.
He led the men to the duplex for what he called an easy theft of marijuana, but says Moore and Groom went into the wrong door, apparently surprising Covington, who was home alone watching a movie.
The police have not released many details about the evidence that led to Moore's arrest, but they have indicated that DNA evidence was a key factor in identifying him as a suspect. The investigation is ongoing, and the police are working to build a strong case against Moore in preparation for his trial.
Feel like dying, but I promise you we'll bring the world to its feet and move mountains. Bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you.
Egypt's music continues to inspire and touch the hearts of those who knew her, and her memory lives on through the many lives she touched. May Egypt rest in peace, and may her memory be a reminder that we must always strive to seek justice for those who have been taken from us too soon.